Hello everyone, and Madayaw! It's me, author Maita. Oh my, we are in chapter 11. Now, spoiler alert, there will be two things happening in this chapter which is crucial for the whole book. One is the climax, and the other one is a very steamy night with Gus, I hope. I know, I've glossed some things over. It's very embarrassing to watch to read something so... But when this book is out, you will read all the spicy details. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy reading this chapter because I did enjoy writing it. And yeah, does Rose get to have her wolf and eat him too? Read this chapter or listen to this so you'll find out. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy because I enjoyed writing it. So if you have comments, let me know. Alrighty, bye. Chapter 11 of Big Bad Wolf Meets His Big Beautiful Mate. Chapter 11, Stella's Plot. It had been a week, and they couldn't find the shadow. Elzo Marquez had already been reported to the authorities, so he was now a fugitive. They set all kinds of traps and wards, but the pack knew he never left. They could still smell him, still feel him. Rose's tent was fixed up and still standing in the plaza. Gus knew it was only for show. They wanted the Umbrakin to come out. Until then, Marcus wouldn't allow Rose to come back. Gus was worried. She didn't have a phone, and she had to turn over the tablet Wolves had lent her. She wasn't even active on social media. He didn't know how to contact her. He sat at the Needle Point, the rooftop establishment of the Simian. It had a bar, and most of the werewolves who had a problem tried to drink themselves here a time or two. Gus just sat nursing a drink for a couple of hours. "Hey Gus," the vampire greeted. The bartender served Caleb with a bottle of flavored blood. Gus grunted as he sipped his shot of tequila. He wasn't in the mood. Wasn't in the mood to get hammered either. He just wanted to sulk in peace. Go away. The vampire sat beside him. "No can do, Gus. I'm here to lend you a shoulder." Gus looked down at his half-sip shot. "Why?" "I seem to recall being in your position some months back." In fact, Caleb could recall himself in the very same chair, with the same silent bartender. "I didn't help you, Marcus did." "I love Marcus. It's because of him that I can't let the pack go. So, when one of you need my help, even if it's just a shoulder, I'm there." Gus wanted to throw the shot glass at the vampire. Caleb was always in everyone's business. Always sticking his nose. Always sticking his nose, just like a wolf. Marcus was right. He acted more werewolf than vampire. "I thought she was the one." "What makes her not?" "Unlike werewolves, vampires couldn't choose their mates." "She could have told me about the Umbrakin." "She could have told me about being homeless," he sniffed. Gus didn't like the idea that she slept months in that van of hers. The only time she had a proper bed was in his couch and in sickbay. "Would you have fought him?" It was a serious question. "Yes!" The glasses in the bar shook. He didn't mean to roar, but sometimes it came out when he was in his mantrum. Caleb sighed. "Does she know?" "She should have! I've always given her stuff." "Gus, she doesn't know werewolf custom. She thinks you're being nice to her, so she'd read your fortune." The werewolf gasped. "No, the gifts I give were because..." He seemed to realize his own action. He was giving mixed signal. "I kissed her. Even made out with her. In your shower room." Caleb made a face but let the shower incident slide. "Maybe, just maybe, Nobody ever fought for her. She's stuck with that scum who beats her up and makes her feel ugly because nobody has ever fought for her. She thinks that scum was all she would ever get in life. Your sweet kisses and buffet were just you trying to garner her favor and perhaps make up for previous atrocious behavior. He did. He was always making up for her something by bringing her things or taking her to eat. But everyone's nice to her. Nice isn't the level of affection she needs. Nice isn't the level of affection you need. No, Gus thought. He wanted something intimate and forever. She had told him that. Nobody ever took a chance on her except Mad Mariah. Perhaps sometime after Mariah left, that mooching Umbrakin thought she was easy prey. In a way, she was. Her parents abandoned her. The ones back home probably made her feel like dirt. Stella had a hard time trusting me. Her self-worth was eroded by her own family. Even after we married, she kept watching me, goading me at times. I asked her why after an argument. She said she was just waiting for me to leave her. She couldn't let go of her garden because it was the only place she had if my crispy ass dusts it. Gus looked at Caleb in surprise. The vampire gave everything to Stella. They were the couple of the decade after Marcus and Nina. He and Stella seemed so strong together. What I'm saying is that you'd have to do 1,001 tasks to get her to trust you, and do another 1,000 once she does. At present, she hasn't trusted you 100%. You're a virtual stranger to her. Their kiss said otherwise, but he knew Caleb was right. Her only experience in love is hurt, pain, and crumbs of appreciation that came with the price. Did she expect the price from him? He knew the answer, yes. She would think all he wanted was for her to just read his cards every day. I chose her. She's my mate. Yes, that was right. He finally admitted it. Rose was his mate. He chose, and Rose was his forever. Oh, Gus, I'm sorry. Werewolves are often picky. They usually mated for life. Gus was on the hunt for a mate, and he had chosen Rose. Unfortunately, Rose was complicated. Caleb knew she had no ill intent. She was a genuine person, but she was caught up in something ugly. Unfortunately for her, she had to dig herself out of that hole. If she truly loved Gus, she too would have to fight to keep him. Now she's gone. Even if she wasn't, Marcus wouldn't take her back. Could he go independent? Gus was never a lone wolf. He had a big family and now a big pack. But he'd consider it if she'd come back. He looked to Caleb and knew the vampire knew something. You know where she is. Don't worry, Gus. When she's ready, we'll bring her to you. You just get ready. Caleb finished his bottle and left. Rose grilled the spam to a crisp. She hasn't quite gotten the hang of using a griller. Crispy spam would have to be her breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a while. At least she still has a loaf of bread. Since Marcus told her to stay away from wolves, she was living in Stella's little garden plot. At least there was a small hut to sleep in and a bathroom to shower in. Her garden was vast. It had all kinds of things growing in it. Stella told her to pick things that she could eat. Unfortunately, Rose wasn't a very good cook. At least there was a dozen cans of spam. She could live off those until this thing is resolved. She was not going home. To go home meant she was accepting defeat. She was not. If she had to read fortune in her van, so be it. Hello? Rose turned to see Stella and Nina coming to the garden. They had bags with them. We meant to visit sooner, but our husband had us on lockdown until this Umbrakin was found. Heard you were living bare here. How's the hut? It's great. I'm grateful. If not for this place, I'd be parked in some street corner at the mercy of muggers. Stella unpacked some things from her bag. They were groceries. There were juice drinks, powdered coffee, rice, bread, and peanut butter. My husband likes you. Not that way. He and I are eternally grateful for rescuing Goliath. She and I lived here for 10 years before I married Caleb. We live near, so you can drop by any time you need something. My husband likes you too. He likes you to stay at Wolves. Great for business and pack morale. It's just this Umbrakin is complicating things, Nina said. Really? Look, they all love Mad Mariah, but she's hard to relate to. They respect her and love her because she's been with the Urbane Pack for decades. You're young, friendly, easy to get along with, and fun. Who knows? Marcus might even ask you to be an honorary pack member if this thing is resolved. Nina's really nice. Rose really wanted to belong to Wolves. Being part of the family felt so good. A family that was very accepting. What about Gus? She liked him, but she didn't know where they stood. Stella put a kettle over the fire and started to make some coffee. Tell me, honestly, girl, do you like Gus as one fat girl to another? He's generous, thoughtful, and funny. What's not to love? Oh, wait, I remember. He doesn't seem to see me that way. Stella and Nina looked at each other and smiled. They had this conspiratorial look about them. Then let's make him see you that way. What? Nina patted her on the shoulders. Girl, did you know he begged Marcus not to send you away? He did. Marcus told Gus to choose when this is all over. He's either going to pursue you or stay away, but I bet he can't stay away. Nina handed her a mug of coffee. So Stella and I decided Gus needs to make his intentions clear, or we bash him on the head. Nina and Stella looked at each other and giggled. It's the opening of the dungeon at midnight tonight. I wasn't even invited. Only celebrities and the who's who of Manila were invited. They had to get a COVID test and should have enough Mythican blood to enter. Stella waved an invitation at her. I've got a +1. We'll be your fairy godmothers if you promise to name your first 2 daughters after us. Oh, you have to promise you'd have a daughter with Gus or die trying, Nina added. You guys are nuts. Totally, but we'll make that wolf run for his money. Nina took out a box from her bag. She revealed stunning killer heels. It's time for a makeover. Rose was whisked away by the 2 girls in a nondescript sedan driven by Ryan Urbane. They took her back to Wolves, but used a secret entrance. If Marcus kills me, I will haunt you 2 forever. Marcus won't kill you. He hates paperwork, and you're very efficient, Nina promised. She kissed him on the cheek and pulled Rose to the shops. She was first brought to the spa for a massage and a foot spa. You'll need a foot spa. We'll be putting you in killer heels later, Nina said. Stella made a pained face. When she says killer, it's gonna kill your toes, but I promise it's gonna stop hearts along the way. Nina got me addicted to shoes and vintage fashion. I'll be carrying a line of these in my future store. After relaxing at the spa, they took her to the parlor for makeup and hair. The shops at Wolves had great selections for shopping. Marcus made sure there was a good mix of local and international designer brands. The girls brought her to the VIP lounge at the shops. Every area of Wolves had a concierge and a lounge. The VIP lounge of the shops had a stylist on standby. A VIP access can get you the full service. It means you just sit in the lounge and ask the stylist to get you the clothes you want and fit them there. Stella had already brought the clothes with her. She was going to dress Rose in the new clothes that her shop was going to carry. Rose looked around. It had warm lights and plush furniture. There were mirrors everywhere, making sure you could see every angle of you. The stylist came and measured her. Nina gave instructions on how Rose was going to look. Nina brought out the killer gladiator shoes with killer heels, a mermaid-cut navy skirt, and a slit that stretched to her hips. It had a silk red lining that peeked out every time she walked. A tiny lace top satin corset finished the look. Stella put a red rose behind her ear. She was hardly recognizable. Rose couldn't believe she was looking at herself. She was transformed. While looking at her look, she thought of how to get Elle out in the open. Elzo was close by, but she didn't want to alert the girls. He'd been lurking in the shadows, and she felt him follow her since she arrived at Wolf's. Because of her witch blood, she could see him in the mirrors and reflection, while he was in the shadows. Tonight might be her only chance. She turned to the stylist. Are these rooms really this dim? The stylist shook her head. No, madame. Sometimes actors and actresses come here. You know studio lights are super bright. They need to see the clothes in bright studio lights, so we have an adjustable system. She flicked a switch on the wall. The light became blinding, then dim again. Cool. Rose smiled and turned to Nina. Do you think I could bring Gus here later? Nina gasped. Rose! You shouldn't do anything kinky in here. Stella laughed. No, let her. Gus needs it. Rose shook her head. I'm not going to do anything kinky in here. Just maybe a fashion show. A private fashion show for Gus. Nina and Stella giggled. All right, I'll reserve a room for you. But no making babies in here. I want to be named after your babies. But wait until the honeymoon. The dungeon opening was Gus's pride and joy. He practically built the whole thing himself since the pandemic began. It had a large open bar in the middle that served all kinds of supernatural drink. There were 3 stages around the dungeon and LCD screens all around. Security was tight in case the Umberkin appeared. So far, since Rose had to stay away, all was quiet. He wanted to catch the shadow. He wanted Rose back. His phone buzzed. When he checked, it was Force. He went to a quiet place to call the head of security. Force? Just a warning. Rose is in the dungeon. The line ended. Force was a man of few words. Gus' heart raced. She was here? How and why? If she was here, would the shadow follow her? He was on high alert now. The dim lights of the dungeon were conducive for the shadow. He did not like that. If this opening night was ruined, Marcus was going to blame him. He went to the floor searching for his prey when he bumped into Lizzie. Hi, Gus. Lizzie, you're not supposed to be here. If Marcus or Ray found out she was in the bar, they'd kill him. Stella said she was bringing Rose. I wanted to ask her to taste my new and improved cleansing cheesecake. She held up a plate of cheesecake. It's packed with more herbs. He needed to get Lizzie out of here. His senses were bristling. He knew the shadow was here somewhere, stalking Rose. Rose was definitely here. He needed to find her. Up. Go back up to your room. I'll take this to Rose. He took the wool cake from the tin and pushed her to the exit. Aw, can't I get a few selfies with some of the celebs? Lizzie looked around for the hottest celebrities who had Mythican blood. They were invited to the opening. No! If anyone found out that we let a human minor, get in this establishment, I'd lose my license. And Marcus is going to mince my meat. Up, or I'll carry you up. He pointed to the exit. Lizzie frowned and marched out of the dungeon. Gus sighed in relief when she exited. He signaled for one of the bouncers to see her upstairs. Now to find... Gus did a double take. Generous bosom and slit so long and a red flower on her hair. On her hair. Here. This was a different kind of Rose. All he could do was stare. He forgot everything else but the vision dancing on the floor. She knew Gus was looking at her. She was on the dance floor dancing on her own. Other Mythicans came and checked her out. They danced with her, asked her name. She refused to give her number. Only one wolf mattered, and she hoped he would approach her already. Her feet were killing her. The music changed, and it was slower. Rose continued to dance, pretending not to see Gus. She let other guys come closer and dance around her. She knew she was playing with fire. Gus pushed the men away from the dance floor to get to Rose. When the men protested, he bared his fangs and he backed away. He looked hungry, ready to devour her. The plate he held was nothing compared to the morsel dancing on the floor. Rose. He was behind her. She could feel his heat. She turned and acted surprised. Oh, hi, Gus. Nice suit. He was wearing a black three-piece suit with a crisp raw silk shirt, an image of sophistication, but at the moment, his face was more animal. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? My date seemed to ditch me, so I'm dancing alone. She continued to dance. Date? He wanted to murder whoever this date was. Rose was his. His wolf wanted to howl. Where? I'll tear him to pieces. Why? I can dance on my own, pay for my own drinks, enjoy the night by myself. She dared him with her eyes. I want you, Rose. There was so much raw emotion in that sentence. Do you? Yes. His eyes glowed red. The wolf inside threatened to come out. I know you want me, Rosella. She loved hearing him say her name, but she had to focus. I've loved before. It was sadly one-sided. I swear it's not with me. She put her hand on his chest, feeling the beat of his heart. Are you going to beat me or make fun of me if you don't get your way? Gus wanted to murder that shadow. How dare he beat up his Rose? How dare he make her feel this way? No. I'll treasure you. Make sure no harm comes your way. I'll make sure you have a soft bed to lie down and food to eat. I'll protect you from anyone. Will you choose me for me, Gus? Me, and not because I can read your cards every day. Yes, he crowded her, pressing his body to hers as she danced. What of Marcus? If he sends me away forever? She put her head to his chest. Marcus be damned! An alpha cannot go between mates. One hand encircled her, keeping her warm. Rose stopped dancing and looked at him. The music seems to stop in her head. Am I your mate? I want you to be. Kiss me, Gus. Show me. Tell me I'm your mate with that kiss. His mouth descended on hers, devoured her on that dance floor. Time seemed to stop. Rose savored the kiss. Gus was such a great kisser. His hand snaked behind her, pressing her close to him. Social distance be damned. He wanted to meld into her. Rose wanted this moment to last forever. A werewolf just declared himself her mate on the dance floor, but she could feel the tug of the shadow. She knew El was near. He was watching her. Let's go somewhere. Somewhere else, she whispered to Gus. Where? Follow me. She pulled him to the exit. Gus was only too willing. She brought him to the VIP lounge. Of the shops, where she had reserved a room. The beige room was empty except for the two of them. She stood in front of the mirrors. They were arranged in a semicircular way. Gus sat on one of the lounge chairs. He still had a plate of cheesecake with him. He used his fingers to swipe a piece and fed it to her. Lizzie's new and improved cleansing cheesecake. Rose licked his fingers clean. He didn't know who moaned. Perhaps they both moaned together. Gus wanted to devour her, lick her like she licked the cheesecake. Rose's hands tried to position his gaze away from her generous bosom and into her face. Gus, I need you to ready your claws, she said. The besotted werewolf was only too eager. You want me to cut the corset open for you? He was ready to make love to her in the lounge. Marcus could tan his hide tomorrow, but tonight he wanted Rose. Shut up, Gus. It's expensive. Ready your claws for this. She went to the wall panel where the light switches were. Gus was confused. She flicked the switch, sending bright light to the floor. She flicked the switch, sending bright light to flood the tiny room. Reveal! Let the light reveal the shadow! There was a scream from the shadow behind the mirror. A figure was ejected out of the mirror. checked it out of the smooth glass. Gus reacted lightning fast. Umberkin! He grabbed Elzo by the throat. He pulled his phone from his pockets and dialed Marcus using one hand. I've got our shadow. Hurry! I'm at the VIP lounge at the shops. The Umberkin in his gasp wasn't quite right. He was dark, as if his skin was made of shadow. It was smoking, as if he had been through fire. Did his being ejected somehow affect his complexion? Was this part of the spell? Bitch! You're mine, not his! The Umberkin hissed at Rose. I was never yours, Elle. Because you were never mine. You used me, and didn't value me the way I deserved. Only Aunt Mariah and my family at Wolves knew my true worth. Rose had been blind, thinking Elzo was all she deserved, but not anymore. She was worth so much more, and she was capable of so much more. Even if Marcus never took her back, she knew she had found a new understanding of herself. She was capable of doing anything and be anything she wished. This man you chose over me? Rose shook her head. I dumped you first. Gus and I are friends. Mate. I'm your mate, Gus declared. She looked up at Gus, tears in her eyes. She knew he meant it. He was declaring his love for her. She knew now that she and Elle would forever be over. You could have walked away, Elle. I'm done with you. You never loved me. Instead of leaving, you made trouble. She looked to Gus. He's not allowed to be in my sight, so the spell burned him until he is his shadow self. The others are coming. They'll make sure this man gets what he deserved, Gus said. Marcus, Force, and Caleb came running in. The other pack members were outside since they all can't fit in the tiny lounge. Force had iron chains with him. Based on Caleb's research, Umberkins can't escape once clasped in iron. Caleb also brought a sack of salt, just in case. You'll pay for this! You'll all pay for this! He struggled from Gus's grip, but the werewolf held him tight. Enraged, Elzo began to chant. Stop him! Marcus and the others knew what he was doing. He was summoning a demon. Caleb shoved a handful of salt into Elzo's mouth, but it was too late. The shadow around them started to vibrate and merge into a black hole on the floor. From the hole came forth a murky form. Every wolf and shifter felt it, and nearly changed forms, wanting to fight or flee this malevolence. Elzo had called forth a demon. Unlike in the plaza, this was now taking corporeal form. Once in the realm of reality, they needed a qualified exorcist to expel it back to hell. This was a disaster. It was nearly out of the hole. Elzo spat the salt out when Gus's grip slipped. He saw his opportunity. Take her! I offer her in exchange! Take her and kill them all! He pointed at Rose. The spiderly arms of the demons. Spidery arms? Spidery arms of the demon reached out for Rose. She tried to run but slipped and fell on her knees. Panicked, she tried to get up but slipped again. Her legs didn't seem to be cooperating. All she could do was crawl away. No! She screamed. And it repelled the hands, but it reached for her a second time. She screamed and... I'll fix this later. Gus frowned. He spotted a bit of cheesecake morsel on her lips. Let me highlight this. Gus frowned. He spotted a bit of cheesecake morsel on her lips. Lizzie's cleansing cheesecake. Gus grabbed a handful of cheesecake and threw it at the demon. Go away! The cheesecake seemed to be burning the demon. He hurled another handful. Leave her alone and go back to hell! The demon's fingers got burned. It was now angry. Gus hurled the rest of the plate in the black hole's base. The black hole's base, where the demon was coming from. It was wavering. The salt! Rose screamed. Throw in the salt! Caleb and Marcus hurled salt into the demon and the hole. Both cheesecake and salt had devastating effects on the dark thing. The demon screamed and grabbed Elzo as it retreated. Elzo screamed and tried to grab anything to keep him from being pulled into the hole. He tried to reach out to Rose, begging her to save him, professing his love as he was dragged to hell, body and soul. When he was fully inside, the hole shrunk and dissipated. Gus went to Rose and carried her. Shh, it's over now. He's gone. She was shaking. He held her tight and she began to cry. Seeing someone dragged to hell was not a pretty sight. She'd been with Elzo for 10 years. Although she was now free of him, she still hated the fact that he's now in eternal damnation. Worse, he offered her soul in exchange. Had she not mattered to him at all? Gus carried her to his room at the Simeon, leaving everyone else to deal with the aftermath. Rose needed him. She needed to feel safe and secure. No shadow would darken her day ever. In the meantime, Marcus had the lounge cordoned off. Nobody was to enter it until an exorcist deemed it safe. Opening portals to hell was no laughing matter. If the portal wasn't closed properly, people could fall through, or more demons escape. When Rose woke up, she was in a warm bed with heavy comforters. The sunlight was blinding and had forced her awake. She sat up and revealed her bare breasts. When she looked under the covers, she was only in her embarrassing girdle panties. She realized she was in Gus's room. "Hello, Starshine. I've ordered some brunch. Stella sent some clothes for you to wear. Nina felt so bad about the shoes, so she sent you some comfortable bejeweled slippers." "They sent a message," Gus said. Rose read the message. "I feel bad that you couldn't get away from the demon. Those killer heels are now banned from the resort. Please accept my heartfelt apologies and these beautiful designer slippers. P.S. Don't forget our bargain. Now have fun with your wolf. Nina." She owed those two ladies big time. She owed everyone an apology and a big thank you. They were the reason for her happiness and new lease in life. Rose frowned. "Why am I naked?" It's not good to sleep in a corset. Bad for circulation," he said. "Don't worry, I slept on the couch." Rose noted that there was a couch in front of the bed facing her. Gus was in a suit, but it was different from last night. "Oh, what time is it?" 10:30. I decided to let you sleep. Last night's ordeal could be very traumatic. We have a counselor for the employees. She's on standby if you need to talk to her." He was clearly worried about her. "Gus," she stood up, not caring about her girdle panties anymore. "Did you mean what you said last night? Am I yours?" She prayed it was not said at the heat of the moment. Gus's eyes glowed gold again. Even in the bright, well-lit room, she knew his wolf was threatening to emerge. "Yes! You're mine, my mate." He came close and held her. "You are mine, and if that demon took you, I'd move heaven and earth to drag you out of hell." His mouth descended to hers and claimed her. She didn't know how long they kissed. Gus was doing things to her body, and she welcomed it. His hands were all over her, caressing her, kneading her breast, her thighs, her behind. "You're mine, Rose. Not even Marcus can send you away." "And if he sends me away again?" There was a real possibility of that, since Elzo was something she should have dealt with a long time ago. "Then I'm coming with you. You're my mate. I've decided you are my forever, and nothing can break that now." There was a knock on the door. He wanted to kiss her, possibly make love to her, but he knew Marcus was coming by soon. He'd deliver the verdict. Should he send Rose away, he'd follow her. He'd use his savings and take her away. Set up somewhere new, make her happy. That's probably food. You better get dressed. Rose went to the bathroom while Gus opened the door. Room service came and piled food on Gus's dining table. His unit was practical and compact. He had a large bed, a couch in front of the TV, a mini kitchen, and a full-size dining room in case he entertained. His office desk was beside the full-length glass window, so he had a view of wolves. and Manila Bay beyond it. Marcus entered as the waiters were leaving. Gus's alpha pulled a chair and sat in front of Gus. It was clear that Marcus hadn't had time to rest. He was still wearing last night's clothes, without the jacket, and the shirt was a few buttons open. "She's my mate," Gus declared. "I figured nobody would get between a demon and its food unless you loved her," Marcus said. "She's mine, and I'm not giving her up." "Cool it, Gus. I'm not sending her away. The Exorcist team is cleaning up the portal and expelling everything with a taint of hell, or that shadow." "The media? Did they get wind of this?" "Yeah. But that worked out to our advantage. People came and were curious to see what went down at the lounge. Apparently, people wanted to see what a portal to hell looked like. We set up a coffee kiosk nearby for the onlookers." Marcus was ever the businessman. Rose came out of the shower. She had a vintage 1960s dress from Stella, but it looked like something Nina would pick. "Marcus, about Elzo." She stood close to Gus, needing his warmth and support in case Marcus cast her out. Marcus shook his head. "Water under the bridge, or should I say, shadow under hell?" She winced at the reminder that her ex was in hell. Normally, people would love to know that their sleazy user of an ex is in eternal punishment, but Rose was a kind person. "Next time there's a problem like this. Next time a problem like this come up, I expect you to tell me. I am your alpha." Before she could say anything, Gus held her and practically pulled her to his lap. "Yes, she is part of the pack now." She looked to Gus then Marcus. "Really?" "Although his wolf already picked, I know ceremonies are important in this day and age. I can officiate the wedding." But Gus held her hand and frowned instead of an excited smile. "Starshine, is it all right to wait a bit?" "Wait? I need my sister to be here, or she'll kill me." It was Marcus's turn to wince. "I forgot about Laika." "Laika?" The two werewolves groaned. Clearly there was something about this sister that had two men wincing about her. "Lycana is Argus's twin. She's also my beta." "Really? I'd love to meet her." "Oh, she'd love to meet you. She'd probably clobber Gus for taking his time." "Lyca's a bit of a control freak. She's efficient, and that's the problem," Marcus sighed. "She's too efficient. Because of her, I could go around the world establishing resorts. She's at headquarters running everything from afar. However, you do not want to be in her bad side." "She sounds like a powerful lady." Oh, she is. If she put her mind to it, she could probably kick Marcus out of his own pack." "Gus!" "It's true. The only reason she doesn't do that is because she finds you useful. You're the outside face while she's behind the scene. Once, she made King David's brother wait on the phone because he didn't set an appointment with her. I have to schedule my calls to her, otherwise I'd fall to voicemail. Her title might be Beta, but her personality is far from it." Marcus's face was pained. "Gus is right. We have to wait. She already gave me an earful for not waiting for her when I married Nina. Wedding on video conference was apparently not enough." "All right, we'll wait for Laika." "This doesn't mean you aren't married already. In werewolf culture, once a wolf decides, all you have to do is kiss him back, and that's a done deal." She had kissed him back. "So we're married already?" "Since last night when you kissed him back in the dungeon. The rest, my dear, is formalities. I'd better get Ryan to file the paperwork. Congratulations." Marcus left the lovebirds alone. Gus wondered how Marcus knew, but that's what made Marcus a good alpha. He knew what took place in his territory. "So, this is the honeymoon?" Gus laughed. "I guess it is." He took a step closer to Rose. Rose took a step back, suddenly nervous. She wished she found the corset and put it on. It felt like armor. This frilly dress made her feel vulnerable all of a sudden. The more Gus stepped closer, the more she backed away until the back of her legs hit the bed and she fell backwards. It was broad daylight, and she never felt comfortable naked even on her own. Mine, he half growled, half purred. Rose's breath came in gasp. This was it. She had a taste of passion with Gus, but this was going to be all the way. His big hand traced her legs and reached into her skirt. His fingers felt her panties and pulled down in one swoop. Her breath left her as her underwear had. She couldn't say anything, but instead stared as he pocketed her stretchy white panties. Gus smiled. I'm gonna take my time. He reached behind her to unzip her dress, then pull it down, exposing her. Rose was only in her bra and nothing else. Ashamed, she tried to cover her flabs and her hairy nether, but Gus was having none of that. He took her hand and put them beside her. Stay put. I'm gonna show you how delicious you are, he growled. His voice was half human. Gus! This time she protested. Open for me, Starshine. I want to look, he said. No, maybe I can go under the covers, she suggested. Gus looked at her as if she grew a second head. Why? I'm fat and flabby. She tried to take a pillow and cover herself. Her werewolf mate shook his head and took the pillow away from her. You are beautiful, Rosilla. Flabs and hair don't matter to me. I love your curves. I love your skin. I love your scent. I love you. To prove his point, he leaned down and dragged his tongue from navel down to her pussy. He pushed her legs apart and purred when he saw his personal buffet all pink and wet. His breath lingered on her thighs as he looked. Slowly his tongue descended on her most intimate part. He explored her slowly. Rose trembled. His touch, his tongue, it felt so good. He looked up, a wicked twinkle in his eyes. She shuddered in anticipation. Then Gus's tongue did the most sensual attack on her most sensitive part. She tried to close her legs, but Gus held her open. Gus stood up and started to undress. He unzipped his pants and unbuttoned his white silk shirt, nearly folded them on a chair. Rose leaned back, appreciating the sight of him. Gus was so handsome. Her eyes went wide when she saw him in his full glory. Gus was big. Gus, I don't think that'll fit me, she breathed. Stuttering her words, she backed away, but he climbed on the bed. I've never... Rose couldn't finish her sentence. She was excited but at the same time nervous. Any dirty novel she read went right out of her mind. She suddenly didn't know what to say or do. Never? As in, never? He thought she never had shower sex, but now he saw it in her eyes. Nobody has ever touched her, ever loved her like this. That bastard Shadow didn't even know what a treasure he had. But he never even tasted you? Gus was so grateful, but at the same time he wanted to murder that Shadow for making Rose feel so unloved in a relationship. I'm crazy for your taste, Starshine. He didn't like me touching him. Nor did he want to touch me, she admitted. His loss is my gain. He kissed her lips gently. She tried to reach behind her. Should I take off my bra? Gus shook his head. I go crazy for these breasts. I have to admit, I stared at them all night before I had to tuck them in the blanket. I didn't want your tits to be too cold. For now, I'd like to play with you. Then I shall devour you, mate. She moaned at Gus's dirty talk. She felt him slowly enter her. Rose closed her eyes, feeling the sensation. It was big, slowly filling her up. I'm sorry, love, but this will hurt. He surged in, piercing her fully. He saw stars when he closed his eyes. She was perfect, so perfect for him. Rose cried out loud in surprise and pain. Gus kissed her eyes when they teared up, whispered soft words to her, comforting her. Slowly the pain ebbed and she began to relax. Then he began to move. Gus, Something's happening, she gasped. The sensual assault made her dizzy. Let it happen, Starshine, he said. Gus was an animal. He surged in and out of her, gaining momentum. He had to tell himself to slow down. Rose was not a wolf. She had witch blood, but her composition is human. He was not a green wolf, surging into her like an amateur. Not that he was an expert either. He wanted this experience to be magical for the two of them. Rose let out a wail as she orgasmed again. Joy blossomed in his guts as he let his own orgasm wash all over him. This was the magical moment he was waiting for. Rose was the one, his true mate. He was not wrong. When Rose came down from the euphoria of an orgasm, her eyes drifted close. She was so tired, she didn't care if Gus was still in her. He could stay in her forever if he wished. He whispered more I love yous to her as she fell asleep. Rose was boneless, and still felt that way after Gus carried her to the shower. He washed her, toweled her, and brought her back to the bed. Had it been hours or minutes, she didn't care. Gus held her close. She inhaled his scent. It was all over her. Gus smelled so good. His pillows, his duvet, his chest, they all smelled like him, and not in a sweaty, smelly kind of way. Elle was not the most hygienic. Gus was, and she loved it. She kissed his neck and his chest. You should know, I made a promise to Nina and Stella. Our first two girls would be named after them, she mumbled on his hairy chest. Gus laughed. Only they would make a deal like that. Marcus and Caleb's family have produced men for generations. They really wanted girls. What? Yeah, there's no girl babies in those two. Since my family's been able to produce females, we have more chances of having a girl or two compared to them. Really? Werewolf females are rare. It's even rarer to have strong personalities in female wolves. But Nina has girl kids. Nina had 3 girls. They were mostly confined to the simian. No, Nina had 2 girls. Nina had 2 girls. They were mostly confined to the simian and the water park because of their human blood, but they occasionally joined the pack at the cavern for dinner. Gus shrugged. They came from her ex, who was fully human. Marcus Jr. is Marcus's get, but his family never produced females for generations now. But they really want strong females. You've seen Rafe's aunt. She broke away from her pack at 50 to establish her own. She fought her way, clawed her way. Her nails were drenched in blood constantly. Strong alpha females. I'd name the first one Nina, the second one Stella, and the third one Mariah. Gus sat up. Mate, is that a prediction? Do you not like girls? The thought of 3 girls is enough to drive a wolf to drink. Gus lay back down and hugged her. These babies aren't going to make themselves. Her hand boldly crept up his thighs until it close to his manhood. Gus groaned. Rose was a delight. His hands went to test hers. If they were going to go another round, he had to make sure Rose was not too sore. There were no words to describe this moment. Gus and Rose felt complete. They made love the whole day, not caring if anybody were looking for them. Marcus would make sure they were not disturbed. End of chapter 11. Hi everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed writing it, and I hope you join me for tomorrow as I read another chapter of Big Bad Wolf meets Big Beautiful Mate. So, bye for now, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, and please comment down below what you like, what didn't you like, any suggestions. This book is not yet finished. Thanks, everyone.